All right, what is up, everybody? We are going to break down this cup race here at the Tricky Triangle. So, 2.5 mile track, 3 turns at the triangle. Suggest a little bit longer race today, obviously, 160 laps. That gives us 40 points for laps led, 72 fast laps. And we kind of saw it starting to come into effect yesterday. And then we had some cost and stuff work out, so it wasn't really that big a concern. But fuel mileage is going to be a big concern. Sometimes this race gets drawn out a little bit. Could become a factor, as well as I know some weird strategy happens here from time to time, so that could play a role as well. So, so we'll just get right into this breakdown. So I think it's a really fun, interesting slate we got so far today. Just going through putting this spreadsheet together and then just playing around with some lines myself a little bit earlier. I think there's a lot of ways you can go with this, depending on how you think this race is going to play out and kind of what you're trying to achieve with your line there. So as you can see, I mean, just looking at this real quick, we got kind of highs and mediums and lows spread all throughout this, instead of seeing that kind of like block of highs and mediums that we tend to have at the top, just due to what we've seen so far this season. So yeah, we'll just start right here with Kyle Busch. Start second, most expensive, right on the front row. We've seen the Toyotas and Chevys during practice. Definitely looked like the manufacturers to beat this week. Fords just didn't quite seem to have it figured out. It could change as the race goes on and they're able to make some changes. But that being said, we're going to go off of what we have right now, and that is the Toyotas and Chevys. So we're going to be a little heavier on them today. But Kyle's at the top of this list. We think he's, one of those handful of cars that are probably the car to beat this week. He had really pretty good practice times there, qualified on the front row. I mean, we just kind of seen him running all right for a good bit of the year, as long as he doesn't run into bad luck. So it might be the only knock on him there. So they just seem to be having some bad luck this year, but I don't think he's a bad play by any stretch of the means. Obviously we have him as high for a reason. We'll mention Denny too. He's pretty identical play to Kyle, I think. Speeds were about the same, a little bit slower. That's why we have him as medium as opposed to high that we got for Kyle. Still think it's a solid pay. Just kind of depends on what you want to go there. How you build the rest of your line. You might not have that extra $200 jump up to Kyle, and I think playing Denny would be perfectly fine. Obviously, he's still in the front row, so one of them two is going to be the obvious favorite to be the early lap leader. It's just something we're going to be looking for, trying to snag as many of those down points as we can. We got Truex at low here. It's just he was the slowest of all these 10K drivers in practice. So you'd rather just go a different direction here. I always see obviously a little bit more PD and safety than some of these other guys. But yeah, we'd rather just go elsewhere, pay down for one of these other guys or pay up for the other two. He just didn't have the speed as the other guys here. Chase, we really like Chase this week. He was really fast in practice. Obviously starts in the first two rows, so has the potential to be an early dominator. But if he's not the early dominator, definitely see him being a factor in this race today. And then jumping down to Ross here, obviously he's been having a really good season. Pissed some people off just his racing style, but makes it exciting for us as fans to watch. Obviously offers you the most PD out of all these guys starting 21st. And he was the fastest in practice, and he had the long run speed, which is something we like to see here. Pocono is, sometimes these runs get stretched out a little bit, and which would, obviously play into the favor of Ross having that long run speed. He does have to go to the rear today, but he's already starting 21st, so it's not a huge deal there. He's going to make his way back up through. Hopefully him going to having to start in the rear just lowers his ownership for us a little bit and can make him a really, really solid play today. So move on down to this 9K range. We got Larson starting fourth as medium. That's, he's pretty similar to Elliott. He times are pretty similar, all that. We just have him as medium as opposed to high, just because he hasn't really shown us what we saw last year. He's been running well. He's been getting top tens, all that, but we just haven't seen that dominator mentality that he had last year. So we have him a little bit lower. Still don't think he's a bad play. Might just be in a slightly weird spot with that price range, but that could affect his ownership a little bit, and could get him as a discount. So if you're running multi-lines, I definitely would have some Larson in there. Moving on down to our probably favorite two in this whole range is going to be Willie B and Kevin Harvick. Like we said, their Chevys had pretty good speed in practice. Willie B right there with the rest of his teammates. Obviously offers you that PD starting 18th. Yeah, so we just think he's a nice addition to pair with a couple potential dominators. If that's, you decide you want to go with like a 2 or 3 dominator route, I think Willie B would be a nice addition to that. Harvick wasn't great in practice or anything, but he starts 24th. He definitely knows his way around this track. He's run here very well in the past. And so we just expect his team to make adjustments throughout. And at the end of the race, has the potential to get, a top 10 finish. Don't expect him to be a dominator today by any stretch of the means, but starting 24th, he gets you a top 10, a little bit slightly discounted price range. I mean, what more could you ask for there? You're going to get the points you need to get that takedown today. Moving on down here, we got Christopher Bell starting 11th. He was second fastest in practice, offers you a little bit of that PD. We see him as a top 5 car today based off everything we've seen so far. He's significantly discounted compared to all his teammates, who are the 3 most expensive drivers on the slate. And I think he could be a very sneaky potential dominator later in this race, or even a potential race winner. So, he might not be. He's definitely a guy I think I try to get in some of my lines, if not my main line. Just offers that PD, significantly discounted from his teammates. All the Toyotas are fast. I just think he's a really, really solid play today. And then I'll talk about Reddick and Bowman here as well. Reddick's our 16th. He's top 10 in practice. He just offers you that PD at a reasonable price. I think it's, someone to definitely have in your player pool if you're running multi-lines. I definitely want some exposure on him. Just seems like a place where he could definitely get some stuff done this weekend. Bowman's kind of in that same boat there. Cheapest of all the Hendrick drivers. The whole team's fast. He had top 10 speed in practice and offers you some PD. So I think he's definitely someone that would be worth having. So as we move on down here to this 7K range, you got Suarez. He's definitely more of a GPP play this week. I think that 9th might limit his upside, but you never know. We've seen him really hang in there with some of those other guys. And then probably the slam dunk play in this whole group is going to be super chalky, super high owned. It's going to be Eric Jones starting 34th, 3rd in practice, messed up on his qualifying lap. So he's going to be real chalky, but he's really fast. Should definitely move up. Going to give you a lot of PD potentials. And then moving on down here, we'll just jump down to the 6K range. So I mentioned Chris Busch. I know we got him in low, starts 5th. He was fast in practice. The qualifying position's backed up by his practice times. And he's won here before. So I don't think you can discount what he's got going on there. But from a DFS perspective, we're just kind of a little leery. Starting 5th limits his upside, basically has to win the race to do much for you. But he's only $6,800. So depending on what you want to go there, how risky you're feeling, I think he's definitely a higher risk GPP play, but I don't think he's necessarily a bad play. We'd rather go another direction. But running multi-lines, might be someone worth taking a look at. And then Michael Mcdowell is showing some really good speed for us so far this year. A lot of times makes him unplayable in DFS just because he's been qualifying pretty high up. You don't want to take on that risk, but starting 25th, offers you some potential if there, move up, give you some spots. Didn't necessarily have crazy speed in practice this week, but he figures it out. The team's shown that they kind of have a grasp on this car. And then I'll just mention Cole Custer starts 32nd. Obviously got a bunch of extra laps yesterday, and we just really like him as a value play today. $6,300. Should be pretty easy to fit in to help you get some of those other guys. And just think, starting that far back, he's lower risk, doesn't really have the potential to hurt you too much as long as he can, finish the race and doesn't get caught up real early in something. And then moving on down here, our probably favorite punt play, if you're going to go down this low, is going to be Cody Ware. Didn't think I was ever going to say that. But he was 24th in practice, which is not something I expected to say. And he starts all the way in the back. So from that perspective, obviously makes a really good play. If he finishes the race, he's, going to gain you points and he can't hurt you. You're going to get 2 points if he crashes on the first lap. And, if he does get a top 25, like his speed suggested, it's a slam dunk play there. And then if you want to go all the way to the bottom, we don't mind BJ this week. Again, he starts right at the back, can't really hurt you, and really allows you to jam in some more of that top end talent, being that he's only $4,700. So as always, like and subscribe to this video, follow us on Twitter. We're going to post this spreadsheet over on our Twitter at FastCarsFM, so you can get that. And then feel free to drop any questions you guys have in the comments on this video or over at our Twitter, and we'll get back to them to the best of our ability and quick as possible as soon as we see them. So yeah, thanks for your support, everybody. Good luck, everyone. Send those takedown screenshots to us.